see, and I think part of what I bring to this group is also just my, close to 16 years of experience speaking to people in pain, like all of you, and kind of hearing over and over again some of the same dilemmas and then feedback when they try new things. And many, many, many people feel that pain is more manageable when they get a handle on listening to their body, and doing not too much, but doing enough, and not kind of getting sort of in a cycle of underdoing that kind of fuels more sickness and more pain and more fear. Because the less and less we do, then the doing becomes a fear, and it's a little like I don't have a specialty in phobias, but I always find like phobias a useful way to sort of explain anxiety and sort of trying out new things. If you have a fear, the more you avoid it. Now, of course, this is for fears that you're trying not to avoid. Obviously, there's very healthy fears that we all have, and I want you to, continue to wear yourself and more things we do are very sensible in terms of fear. But if you're sort of avoiding something you actually want to do, just over time, that fear can go a little related to what you were saying about shopping, is it probably better, which she's saying is the case, there's a fear of doing this thing well, and at some point, her example or other people's examples, that figuring out a way to kind of work with that fear and maybe challenge yourself.
This is like the worst recording ever. It's like super laggy, and then we have this like
or if you're afraid to go out on your own,
constant buzzing from the 3D pen.
Kind of go to the store, but have your buddy wait in the car, and see if you can kind of push a little into an area that you're afraid of, enough that you just have some feedback about, like, oh, how was it for me to do some more activity, or to challenge myself to do something that's a little scary, but I kind of want to do. So again, the key message here with this slide and this kind of portion of the discussion about pacing is that you are in the best position to manage your pain if you're really getting a handle on what is the right level of activity for you. It's not going to be the same every day or every week, but to kind of be curious about what causes flares, what keeps you from doing if you're underdoing, just to sort of observe and be curious and try different things out so that you're kind of gathering data like a scientist, or gathering data about your own situation so that you can, make decisions based on that related to pacing. I always talk about this example when I talk about pacing. I talk about it other times too. I hope I haven't talked about it in 2 classes before, but who knows, maybe I have. I had a woman in a class that I taught many, many, many years ago, and she was, during the 8 weeks of the class, she had her 50th high school reunion, kind of one of the weekends in there. And she had mentioned to the class that she was excited about her reunion, and, so when the class the next week, either she brought it up or someone asked her how the reunion go. And she said that it was really fun, and she stayed up later than she usually does, and she wore shoes she doesn't usually wear, and she danced, and she was in bed for days after. And what was really kind of struck me about this, and why I always bring it up, is that it was this interesting kind of combination of she had done what she felt like was, too much, and definitely got herself in a flare, but because she had chosen to do it and was excited about doing it, it had, it caused her to go into a flare, but she wasn't upset about it. like the reason I find this story, useful, or I hope it's useful for all of you, is that ideally pacing is about empowerment, right? You knowing what your body can do, and that's empowering, so that you feel less like, I have no idea, that there's no rhyme and reason to, kind of any of my flares. It's really good to kind of know ahead of time, to choose what you're going to do. And interestingly, in the case of this woman in particular, I was really struck by how, even though she was in a flare, she didn't seem down. And not that my message to you is like, even when you're in a flare, like, keep smiling, like, just put on a happy face. But I think what she conveyed to us was that the kind of feeling that she had chosen this activity, knew she was kind of pushing back past her, kind of pacing place for sure. But that she'd chosen it, knew that it was going to do that, and felt it was worth it, made a big difference. And part of, like an annoying thing that if you have chronic pain is kind of a burden on you, is that planning tends to be, they're doing things spontaneously without a plan is more challenging at times. And that is an extrovert, that sometimes, you'll need to sort of plan and pace and sort of prioritize things. I think we're going to talk about that as well, which puts a burden on you, but it, ultimately can sort of unlock more of a sense of empowerment because you really feel clear about what you're choosing. And again, to just kind of reiterate what I said earlier, it's really hard when you have pain and you feel like you're just trying to get through the day to then feel like, oh wait, now I have to like prioritize and step back and think about these things. So I want to encourage you to just, in little ways, be curious and put some energy into figuring out as much as possible your activity patterns so that you can kind of harness that information and use it to your benefit. Okay, so I'm going to go on to the next slide, which is about kind of what I just said about prioritizing, planning and pacing. So, really thinking about what's important to do, and this may seem like kind of a straightforward thing, and, some activities are straightforward, like there's something really urgent, a bill that needs to be paid today, that may be obvious. But in general, thinking about our priorities, the things that can get in the way of thinking clearly about our priorities are when somebody else's priority for us, where we've kind of taken that on. So like someone in your life thinks that, you need to do or you should do this thing, you should always do that thing first. So maybe you live with someone who says like, we have to have a clean house before enjoying ourselves, or somehow other people have an idea about what the priority is that maybe doesn't match yours. So really thinking about what are the things that are important to you. Of course, as I said, there's the things that one has to do. But really, again, being curious about why am I always planning to do the thing that I feel like I should do, even if it's not actually urgent, but I somehow feel guilt or shame not doing that thing. So worth thinking about. And then as you're planning activities, breaking things down into smaller tasks. We talked about that a little bit last time when we talked about SMART goals and sort of, breaking things down into these smaller pieces. Because that makes it easier to do things, it makes us more realistic about doing them, and kind of understand where things fall apart and not get sort of discouraged if we can't, fix a thing in one go. Okay. And then, just like a little bit, one way to think about prioritizing is having 3 categories. So important and urgent, so those are things that are genuinely important to you and are urgent. Then the next category would be important and non-urgent, so things that you want to do, feel some pressed to do, but aren't urgent. And then things that are not as important, and not as urgent. That, sort of logical, but it's good to sort of see it clearly. And then also just to really just to make sure to prioritize things that are enjoyable, and not just the shoulds and other people think you should do, or something that comes up in class, the ways people were raised, and sort of all of us were raised in situations where we got messages about, what our behavior should be or what we should prioritize. And it may be that the way you were raised, socialized, was to always do, X thing before Y thing. Like I was saying that, the house always has to be clean, and that's the first priority. And maybe that doesn't work in your current situation. Maybe you if you only put energy into the sort of shoulds or the things that you would feel guilty not doing, you might not have energy left over to bring you some joy, some peace, because those things are important psychologically, of course, but also in terms of the brain, going back to this idea of the nervous system and keeping it as calm as possible. We need pleasure to do that, and that can look differently for different people, but it is really up to but it's really, really important to have that in there. And if you know that you're a person who sort of often puts yourself low on the priority list and your own joy or pleasure is low on the priority list, I'm talking to you, and really want to challenge you to think about, kind of bumping that up a little. Okay. All right. So this next slide, pacing, alternating high and low activity. So this is, just a kind of straightforward thing about, one useful thing with pacing is kind of alternating high and low energy activity. And this could be physical energy, emotional energy, but to kind of mix it up a bit. And again, if you feel some priority and urgent things that are all kind of high energy, again, physically or emotionally, even though you might want to do them one after another, it's important to go, if you've got washing dishes, having a stressful conversation with a family member, and going grocery shopping. Those just might not be things that can be done on the same day or the same, whatever time period it is, because those are all kind of demanding. And sometimes when things feel urgent, it can be hard to pace and hard to kind of think through that. And so this is just a slide about kind of alternating those activities. And the next slide here is an activity pacing log. For those of you that like to keep track of things, you might set yourself a challenge of pacing yourself with one, particular activity. So in this example, this person was going to rake the leaves. Instead of doing it all at once, their goal was to, do a little bit each day. So in this example, they were going to rake leaves for 10 minutes every day, and then kind of rest for 15 minutes afterwards. And, you know, and then you can kind of see, like, how that goes. So, you know, just keep some notes on, you know, is that working? Do you need to do less activity, more activity, less rest, more rest? Kind of figure that out. And as key as it could be, I really recommend things like this because it's sort of the only way that you're going to get believable data for yourself to kind of know if you try something. So if you're someone, for instance, that's really not doing much activity, you know, you need to set a goal of doing some activity every day for a few minutes and sort of see how that goes. Yeah, okay. So we are getting close to 6:30. So let me just sort of do one more slide. So this slide is about kind of what gets another, you know, more about what gets in the way of pacing. So one thing just to talk about kind of rushing and that sort of urgent feeling is that it can be a kind of good feeling, almost like an addictive feeling. I don't like using that word casually. It's like, you know, there can be like a high that comes from rushing and doing things. You feel productive, right? Especially, not that we have a monolithic culture, but, you know, there's a lot of messaging. You know, we live in a capitalist society. There's lots of messaging around doing things and just doing them and being busy and, you know, just doing as much as possible, really pushing yourself. And so I think sometimes what the feedback I've gotten from patients is that they tend to feel more vulnerable to those messages because they kind of carry a feeling of somehow that they're not doing enough or they're kind of not as productive as they used to be, or maybe they're disappointing other people or disappointing themselves, and they can be a bit vulnerable to these messages about, like, be busy and keep going. And also, you know, doing a lot of stuff can be a way to avoid boredom, it can be a way to avoid thinking, certainly a way to avoid feeling. And some of the thoughts that can go along with this, you know, related to this prep to be productive, if you do a lot of things, you kind of feel like, oh, I'm being productive, I'm really indispensable, people, you know, need me, I won't be rejected, I'm pulling my weight, you know, I'm worthy because I'm, you know, caring for other people, really pushing
Oh, I'm
myself.
heavy now.
And
It's like it's bending under my weight now.
yeah, and again, that it's sort of a...
I can also actually use it. It's my balance is way better.
Dr. Fractive, a very important in the chat box. In the workplace, this vulnerability is a real threat to being fired. So that's a really, right, that's a really practical piece, right? Some of this is about kind of choosing and kind of what you have a sense of agency over, and then kind of work, the workplace can be, to kind of go back to that, you know, slide about, kind of, how we plan things and prioritize things. You know, work can sometimes be the pressures put on you, the tasks assigned to you, you know, if you're working with somebody else, is that, you know, the sense of like everything is important for you. And
put it upside down, and now it is a challenge.
really vulnerable.
Now it's a challenge.
Realistically, it is
Nope,
extra hard if you're someone who feels like, it's hard to find another job, or, you know, they feel like there's limited things they would be qualified because of their energy level and speed. So absolutely, and that goes under that that category of like what needs to be done. And I'm all for pacing at work and coming up with ways to do that, and also really important to know kind of what has to be done, and keeping your job, which I imagine would be important. What's urgent and necessary to do there. Okay, 6:32. Let's take a 5-minute break, and then we will come back and finish off our session. And somebody is saying they need to see it. Jen, yeah, you and I talked about that. No problem. Thank you so much for being here. I'm glad you were able to join us for part of it. And thanks for wishing everyone a good week. Okay, and we will be back at 37. Okay.
Hillary, Hillary, can you hear me? Hillary?
I think she might have signed off to for a break. She might click on to it.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you so much.
Trying to use the natural terrain to like create a safe place.
That's not a number. Oh no, that's just one number. Yeah.
Right. Hopefully everyone is back. Okay. So, let me just get this slide. Okay, well, before I kind of go further, what questions do people have, or does this resonate, not resonate? Like, do people have challenges in the pacing department that you want to raise for discussion? Anyone have thoughts? All right, well, feel free to raise them as we go along. Okay, so I want to talk again about this idea of planning pleasant, joyful, pleasurable activities. So again, like all these things, some of you may be, kind of intuitive, know the activities. I think there's a question about FMLA in the chat box. Let me just see if something flashed by. Generally, we don't, kind of things like that go to the primary care provider. We don't, we're not really supposed to sort of fill out paperwork related to disability or FMLA or things like that. But so I would start with your primary care physician, and definitely if you need to talk with us about it, or if you have a question, certainly fine to raise it. But sort of in general, paperwork kind of goes through the primary. So Claudia has a few questions about FMLA. Claudia, are you okay with us sort of tabling it until like 7:30ish and, or 7:25 sort of before we end? Sure. Because other people may definitely have something to say about that. So in terms of pleasurable activities, really important to plan these. Again, these are the things that often get, sort of pushed aside when you feel that there isn't enough time or energy to do the have-tos. And on the one hand, for people in that situation, it might feel like I'm saying, like, somehow, like, you're supposed to pull time out of the hat, time or energy that you don't have. And so it just may be starting really small, but just the act of planning and saying, I need to have some enjoyable things is really, really important. So I really want to challenge people to do that, even if you feel that there's no room for that. Maybe convict yourself about, doing something in a short amount of time. I'm always curious when people describe things as guilty pleasures, which I think is speaks to many an attitude about, getting to enjoy oneself. But, are there things that you think, oh, that's sort of a, something that I didn't enjoy, or, is silly or whatever? Do you have something like that? Maybe do a little bit of that. Okay, and then start with just planning things, at least a few times this slide says start with 2 to 3 activities 3 to 5 times per week. Doesn't have to be that, but plan something enjoyable, decide what you're going to do, put it on the calendar, and start with something that's doable, like the whole idea of SMART goals in general. You want to do things that are realistic. But I really want to challenge all of you to make sure you have those pleasant activities. And again, it can be hard when you feel that you are just, you know, busy or dealing with pain 24/7. It can really be hard to do this. But again, this is about keeping the nervous system happy, and it just means, you know, we need to do the activities that calm our nervous system. I'm thinking about sometime over the last week. I thought it was over the weekend, but it might have been last week. In between when we had our last class and now, and I was thinking, I think I was on Instagram looking at some pictures of adorable videos of adorable dogs. And I was thinking about my experience with my own animal. I have a cat she's absolutely adorable and very funny and demanding and very quirky being. And how when I see her, when I look at her, or when I see a picture on my phone, you know, physically, something happens where I kind of, you know, take a bit of a deep breath. It's like that, you know, that state of like, like, oh, you know, just makes me really happy to see her, play with her, see a picture of her. I have this feeling of kind of love and like, oh, she's so adorable and I adore her. And so, you know, planning activities like this can feel like, it sort of doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that it's something that gives your nervous system a chance to be in a different mode, you know? And so that is like reading People magazine online, or, you know, organizing a cabinet if that floats your boat, or, you know, talking with a friend, or, you know, doing something that feels impractical, or, you know, whatever it is,
My phone,
you know, or some version of something that, you know, you used to enjoy, and you're kind of stuck on like, I can't do it, you know, full throttle, you know, maybe you used to hike and you can't do that so much, but maybe, you know, it means you're not out in nature, and that was part of what you really liked. Maybe that you need to get yourself to nature and maybe do a little bit of walking or a little bit of sitting, you know, that's going to give you some joy. So, again, I do a lot of these suggestions. I had a new patient today who was saying just how infuriating it is when people say, like, meditate or do things, and he was like, my pain is so bad, like, how would I possibly be able to sort of distract myself enough to do that? So I get that some of these things feel like, where would I find the energy for that? But I'm pushing on you to sort of see where you can kind of push back against pain, sort of taking up all the room in your life. Okay. So if you are someone, again, who likes to write things down, that might be part of, setting a goal in this arena could be useful for you, and sort of tracking it might be a way to kind of get engaged in it, be curious, and kind of might give you some accountability. So for this example is that the goal is, you know, to go to the movies with friends. And there's a spot here on the chart that says, how much do you think you will enjoy this 0 to 10? And the person put in 3, which, so obviously 0 means not enjoy and 10 means totally enjoy. So this person put 3, and then the next place on the chart was like, how much do you actually enjoy it? Obviously, as we figured out when the activities are done. And for this example, the person enjoyed it 7.5. And then there's a space for kind of observations. And the comment was, I was surprised that I had fun instead of not doing well earlier in the day. Now, clearly, whoever wrote this, you know, we wrote it to, it wasn't me, but it was illustrating point about, there's been testing that can work for teens that when you're doing something that makes life feel so hard, it can be that you're so grabbed by the moment that you're in, and the idea of planning something enjoyable, of thinking that you might actually get any enjoyment out of it, just feels really hard to do and hard to picture that things would be enjoyable. So this example, it sort of meant to illustrate that you might enjoy something more than you think you will, because imagining it just may not really capture how it will really feel, body, mind, all of it, to actually, in this example, be friends, go out, have an activity, and that if you have kind of gotten stuck in a place where you feel like, if I'm feeling bad, nothing will be enjoyable, it's sort of challenging that a little. And I'm not saying that, if you're having a day where you feel super crappy, that I'm hearing some background noise. Let me just see.
Not me.
If folks on the phone could mute themselves, I don't want to, anyone on the phone, please mute yourself. Since we're getting to background noise. So, I really just want to challenge you a little bit on this, and in a way, what I want to do is sort of have you borrow my optimism a little bit, that there might be things that it's hard to imagine you could enjoy, but that might be enjoyable once you do them, and once you're in the activity, and not having that fear that comes before the activity. Okay. Alright. So let's do a mindfulness meditation. I'm going to mute everybody, including people on the phone. Whoever the phone call, the number 5-figure, the 599 phone, could you mute yourself? Because I'm hearing some sound coming from that number. If you can mute yourself, that would be great. And then let's do a mindfulness exercise. Okay, but before we do that, any questions, any comments, any challenges to what I'm saying? Thoughts? Alright. So get yourself into get yourself into whatever feels like a supported, hopefully comfortable, but I know you might not be totally comfortable, but a position where you feel like you can kind of close your eyes and relax and not worry about falling or sort of not being supported. So kind of get yourself into a good spot for that. And then I want to have you focus on an aspect of your breathing. Just one aspect of it. Could be the sensation of air flowing kind of, into your nose, out of your mouth, your belly rising and falling as you inhale and exhale. Just see if you can focus on one part of that breathing cycle. And just notice that. And that will sort of automatically get you to kind of notice your breathing in general and get back to your body regulating oxygen. Just see if you can focus and notice one aspect of that. Just stay with that for a moment, and it could be, the feeling of air flowing, it could be your belly rising and falling. Once you narrow your focus in that way, driving your focus. And becoming aware of sounds, sensations, ideas, thoughts, emotions. And I want you to notice each one of those thoughts or sensations, really embrace them, consider each of those things. It could be, maybe you can withhold judgment or withhold judgment, but you notice yourself judging, like, oh, like you have that thought, or that thing is annoying, or, you're sort of going in that direction. Maybe you could just focus on being curious of what that sounded like, or noticing that you have a particular emotion, noticing you have a thought. It's really you can resist the judging it as like a good thing or a bad thing, but just really just noticing it, being aware of it, and making some room for it. And you feel like your mind is sort of going, and that this, you can just reflect on, is this sort of causing tightening or stiffening in your body? So you can just then refocus on breathing, kind of return your focus there, kind of get in sync with your breathing. Then it can be like one part of that cycle of breathing, your belly rising and falling, the airflow, anything about that cycle. And once you feel like you're kind of stayed with that, and maybe got into that groove, see if you can shift again into expanding your awareness of sounds, sensations, emotions. And certainly one of the sensations that you might notice is pain. And I know it's really hard to not judge that as bad. But if you could just, be aware of of course, the negative feelings that come along with that. And also sort of make space for just being curious about what's that sensation like? What's happening? Even playing with that practicing of awareness of just like, oh, there it is, that kind of ache, or that nerve sensation. Just kind of noticing what it is, maybe coming up with some language for it, and just sort of accepting for the moment that that's what you're working with. That your mind gets going and is racing a bit, kind of on that hamster wheel, so you can return your focus to your breathing. And sort of expand your awareness out again to noticing thoughts, feelings, sensations, sounds. Sort of be quiet for the next 4 minutes or so, and just let you sort of carry on with it. Again, just between noticing your breathing. That's sort of the routine. If you feel that your mind is kind of getting, like it's racing, or you're getting stuck in sort of a negative or, challenging place, and I return to thinking about those sensations related to the breathing, and then go back to widening your focus to sounds, sensations, and ideas. And then I'll let you know when to wrap that up in about 3 or 4 minutes. Okay, so, just want to encourage all of you to, take just a couple of moments to focus on your breathing. Maybe take some really nice, deep breaths in, nice long, slow exhales, if that feels comfortable to you. Just do a few cycles of that, and then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Okay, what was that? Who's got thoughts about that? Is anyone volunteer and say how that went? Yeah, Becker, go ahead.
I feel like it didn't make the pain like go away necessarily, but kind of like sitting with it and trying to like understand it a little bit was easier than trying to not feel it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. I think the pushing against it can take energy, and it also, I think, it's more kind of a place of fear. And I think there is something about not like welcoming it, like, hey, I'm so glad the pain is here, but a little like, okay, what are we working with? Yeah, I think that's a calmer place. So Erica, I for one would love to hear suggestions. I think that's what is the benefit of this class. And Erica, do you mean suggestions from other people, from me? Maybe say a little bit more about suggestions.
I was responding to Zephyr's comment about how to be active or distract through the pain, and is it okay to share some suggestions?
Gotcha. Gotcha. I sort of saw that comment flash, but yeah, let me just read this out loud for somebody who, anyone who can't read it. I recently asked for advice on Instagram on how to distract, be active through the pain. Is it okay to share some suggestions in the chat? Yes, awesome, and yes, and it sounds like Erica was saying fantastic, thumbs up on that. Yeah.
Yes.
Katrina, it's like meeting that relative one that really not like to see. Yeah. I see what you mean by that, but kind of meeting the pain, kind of sitting with that. Right, it's like doing that thing that you sort of dread. Right, like the relative.
Yeah, it's like, oh, here you are, burning ankle, hurting knee.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, numb fingers. I have felt you in 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to describe it, and I think well, let me ask you, how was it to see that relative, and did it I don't know if you want to say a little more about your experience with that.
The less I see of this relative, the better it is, because it's just aggravating. It is acknowledging the fact that certain things exist. Is the slippery slope into deep depression, because it's driving home the point that certain things cannot be done the way they used to be done. And pacing sometimes is not an option. There's just no option. If I have to go from A to, I cannot pace myself going to the bathroom, working in a high-rise office building where the bathrooms are behind the elevator shaft and my cubicle is on the far side of the building. There is no way of pacing. I have to go, I have to go there, I have to track the water mile to get there. Because that is the layout of high-rise office buildings. There is no pacing. Doesn't matter that my feet hurt, doesn't matter that my knees are stiff. The alternative is to pee my pants.
So it sounds like for you there's a lot, and this may be the case for other people. First of all, you sound pissed about this, which makes sense to me. And I imagine it makes sense to other people. And it sounds like there's a lot, certainly related to work, a lot on the list of like urgent and must be done. Even things that are not, like you're saying, not like a work task, but like, I need to get to the restroom. Like, nobody's telling me to do that. I need to go. And so it may be then harder to find the places that you can pace yourself. But I'm encouraging you and anyone else that this is resonating with to look for areas that pacing is possible. And it could be something small, which I think sometimes, if you have a lot of urgent have-to things, it can be really hard to sort of see the places that pacing might be possible. And it sounds like work, at least some aspects of work, don't feel to me like a place of possibility of like pacing yourself. So maybe that you need to look elsewhere for something that you feel like is a little more in your control to kind of build that pacing muscle. Because if you sort of try to go at something that's too big of a have-to, or there's too much pressure, I think it could be easy to feel demoralized, like that pacing in general was not possible. So I would start with an area of your life that there's less pressure in. That would be my recommendation.
Myself. And I'm perfectly capable of pacing, but pacing is not an option all the time. Like,
absolutely.
If I have to go to the bathroom, I have to go. If I have to go to the grocery store because there is no more groceries in the house, I have to go and I have to buy them. Because, well, there is no more food in the fridge, the milk is sour, somebody needs to go and buy it, and the somebody is me. So, yes, I can make it only one store instead of going to the 3 stores I used to do in one big weekend shopping trip. I would go to my various groceries outlets, and so I just do now one store, one a day for over 3 days. But still, stuff has to get done, and sometimes even one store is too much.
I really hear your frustration about this, and I really want to underline that I don't think this is easy or that it's possible in all realms, but that it's really important to find some place in your life where you feel like you have some choice, and it might be just a really micro, like a small thing, because if not, again, just looking at the science of it, to have a nervous system that feels that it's being forced all of the time, and it has no choice in anything, is sort of the definition of trauma. So it really is important to kind of send a message to your brain that you have some choices, so that it does not think you're in a kind of fight or flight emergency all the time, because that's just going to increase pain signals being sent. So it might be getting creative about where is there some leeway, and I don't know you well enough at all to kind of say like, oh, here's the thing, here's the place to find that. But I really urge you to look for some place, because again, it's a feeling of fight or flight all the time, and that is really just an impossible route with pain. And I hear your frustration, and I think this express the frustration. And one of my patients, I do a pain support group that you could do after you're done with this class. And one of the patients in that class was talking about something that she started doing called journal speak, and I'll put the link to it in the chat box before we leave tonight. And it's this practice where you spend 20 minutes a day writing down stuff that really pisses you off. You spend 20 minutes doing that, and then, gonna sneeze again. Allergic to that cat that I adore. You spend 20 minutes writing about it, and then afterwards you rip up the piece of the paper, or if it's on your notes thing or some file, you delete that thing. But you have the experience of getting that out, and it is really important to have a place to get some of these feelings out. Because they're so valid and important. It sounds like you're feeling like you have so few choices and there's so many have-tos. And that's really not just physically painful, as you're saying, but emotionally really painful and stressful. Okay, so the slide now is just kind of a comment about attention. Mindfulness is ultimately about attention and about observation.
Did you say Robert was coming?
Mindfulness, as you know, is a lot about the moment.
At 7?
And one of the ways that we can anchor ourselves in the present is by noticing, like part of that mindfulness exercise, about noticing like sounds and sensations. That's a way we can sort of anchor and ground ourselves in the moment. And that's really important. It's a big technique for people that have PTSD. Because there can be a lot of pull to go to the past or the future to kind of have that anxiety ramp up. So attention, observation, mindfulness is about that, and this quote here is about being the building block of other types of learning, which is true. I don't know, in the context of this class, that's full of the quote, but, okay. So in terms of home practice, I want to encourage people to try one or more pacing strategies this week. And, the first thing is sort of observing, of course, and then seeing.
Oh, maybe that's him.
Noticing, are you overdoing? Are you underdoing? Is there, can you kind of plan, prioritize, just sort of
Hey, how you doing?
something that, come away from something that we talked about tonight.
Hey, how you doing?
Plan, translate that into a plan of something to look for on this week. Also, one or two kind of joyful, pleasurable, pleasant activities to try this week. And practice some kind of mindful meditation activity, ideally daily. And part of why I like this class to be 8 weeks, it was only 8 weeks, and then we had a manager that came in like 5 years ago and was like, we need to shorten the class to 4 weeks, and it's too long. I'll spare you all the drama about that. But anyway, we finally got back to 8 weeks again. And one of the things that I think is really helpful about it is that you get a chance over 2 months between classes to sort of practice some things, to let some of these ideas sink in, and to practice and have things go well and share that or not go well.
Hi.
You know, so that
How
we're
are
not
you?
just sort of discussing a bunch of ideas and then like, bye, go live the rest of your life and somehow try to, you know, incorporate all these ideas. So
It's gonna be over in like 10 minutes.
To kind of think during the week, practice, you know, do what you can. Jeffrey, you had a question or comment?
Oh.
Sorry, I think that's from the last time that I talked.
Oh, okay. All right, thanks. Okay. So, I think those are all the slides. So what I think I would like to do is, we did a few, I'm sort of forgetting now, but I think we did some introductions the first week, and I can't remember if we did any last time, but would anyone like to introduce themselves to the rest of the group and maybe say anything about themselves, something we wouldn't know, of course, or say anything about what they're working on in terms of their pain, or a goal they're going to set for themselves this week about pacing, or joyful activities, or I don't know, we have a little bit of time left. So, is anyone up for that?
Okay.
Yeah, anything else? This class went from being a little more chatty to less chatty, and that is totally fine. And I also am open to feedback if there's something that feels like it's shutting me down in terms of any comments or questions. You know, I'm totally open to hearing if there's something that's not working or whatever. I'm always open to that. Okay, so what I want to do is, I'm going to put that link up. Oh, I know what I wanted to say also on the not good news front is Jackie did send out all the workbooks. I don't know if any of you have received them. She said that it sometimes takes like 2 weeks to get things. Like she said, like it might be 3 weeks. So I wish that were not the case, and if I had known that it was so long now, I would have recommended that some of you pick them up in person, or anyway, I realize that's not great, but that's what it is. And I want to put up that thing about how to journal speak. And it's from a website called the Cure for Chronic Pain, and and also in general, if people have books or podcasts or things of that sort, you know, social media accounts that help with pain, you are welcome. I mean, I guess this came up earlier, actually, based on what Zephyr was saying about looking for things on Instagram. But if there's things that have helped you, feel free to put those in the chat box. Or if any of you want more suggestions for all those things from me, podcasts, books, accounts to follow, I'm happy to do that. But I would encourage people to look at that Cure for Chronic Pain journal speak. And for those of you on the phone, actually, now I'm just remembering, some of you are on the phone, Let me just say a little bit what that is. So again, it's a website called thecureforchronicpain.com. And the idea of journal speak is, so somebody's recommending Ezra Klein's recent podcast on chronic pain. Let me just see that and the book, so Ezra Klein, he has a podcast for the New York Times. I assume that's the one you mean. And I believe there's no, in my mind, you can, I think that's not blocked. So you can get to the podcast if you kind of Google search Ezra Klein podcast. You can get to that on the New York Times. And also, at least in the past, they sort of have like a written transcript of the podcast that's also on that page. So if you'd rather read it or do both.